Power clean was classified as a gross motor skill as it uses large muscle groups. It was said to be serial as it is several discrete movements chained together, and it was classified as closed because it is self-paced. In terms of Gentile's taxonomy, it was classified as 2B, as it requires object manipulation whilst the body is stationary, and intertrial variability can occur depending on the weight that is placed on the bar, as this can change from one trial to the next. The learner begins in the cognitive stage. In this stage, they are attempting to understand how to perform the movement, and a lot of cognitive activity is needed to be able to understand the skill and the movements. In this stage, the movements tend to be slower and more inconsistent. The learner will probably remain in this stage during the beginning weeks of the program, and so these sessions aim to familiarise the learner with the more basic aspects of the skill. Stage 2, or the associative stage, is where the learner begins to better understand the different parts of the skill and can begin to modify them. Movement becomes more fluid and more automatic, however, parts of the skill are still controlled consciously. As the learner moves into this stage, they will become more efficient at performing the skill. In the program, some parts of the movement are pieced together and practiced as a whole. However, some parts of the skill are still practiced separately before they are chained together. The third stage is the autonomous stage. During this phase, execution of the skill becomes more automatic and allows the learner to focus their attention on other demands. Their movement will become more consistent and efficient, and less errors will be made. However, learning will begin to slow once they reach this stage. It may take someone quite a long period of time to reach the autonomous stage. However, during the end of our program, we begin working on the skill as a whole and performing the entire movement to help promote confidence and fluency in performing the skill. For the pre, post, and retention tests, a qualitative and quantitative measure were designed. In the qualitative test, the subject performs a power clean and is scored out of 5 on their performance of different aspects of the skill that were considered important. For the quantitative analysis, the subject performs a power clean and are assessed on their ability to complete the skill and the weight that is on the bar when they complete it. Positive transfer occurs when a person has previously learned a skill which enhances their learning of a new skill. The learner had experience in resistance training prior to beginning the program, so some exercises that were included in our sessions that would assist with the power clean were familiar to the learner.
At the start of each training session, the skills being learnt were demonstrated to the learner. Following the initial demonstration, the skill was shown again, this time with a verbal explanation, focusing on the key aspects of the skill and what needed to be focused on. During the training session, verbal cues were also given. These were short, sharp, and concise, focusing on the key aspects of the learnt skill. Augmented feedback was given to the learner following the skill being performed. This is known as terminal feedback. The feedback was given based on knowledge of performance, as information about the movement pattern during the skill could be focused on, and how this led to the performance outcome. Feedback was given on a phased schedule. As the learner progressed, feedback was gradually reduced to ensure that the learner did not become too reliant on external feedback.
Distributed practice was used rather than massed practice. 3 30-minute sessions per week over the 5 weeks were used. These regular and more frequent sessions were used to help prevent fatigue and boredom, as sessions that are too long or too infrequent could prevent optimal learning. When deciding on the types of practice, it was necessary to take into account the task complexity and organisation. As the power clean is high in complexity and low in organisation, part practice was considered appropriate for the program. Segmentation and simplification were the main methods of practice that were used, in which the skill was broken down into separate parts, and also where different sections of the skill were regressed to make them easier. There was not a considerable amount of practice variability included in the program. As the skill is a closed skill with stationary regulatory conditions, practice did not vary much. Although there can be intertrial variability, this is more concerned with the weight that's placed on the bar, not the context or situation in which the movement is performed, where there could be competing attentional demands for the learner. The weight the skill is performed with and the progressions of the lift are varied throughout the program, depending on the stages of learning. The practice used in this program is largely blocked practice due to the nature of the skill. As the testing conditions are stable, with little to no contextual interference, using blocked practice where certain sets and reps were performed was seen to be more specific to learning the movement and to the testing that would be performed at the end of the program. The practice setting imitated the testing situation, as this is said to help enhance memory. Visual imagery and verbal labelling and phrases were used for the different exercises and the regressions of the power clean to help increase their meaningfulness. In order to help the learner maintain attention, performing several tasks at once was avoided, especially in the early stages of the program. In the beginning of the program, the movements were more basic to help the learner narrow their attention to focus on just one thing. Further on in the program, the number of things that they had to focus on was increased as they were better able to attend to more than just one aspect of the skill.
To keep the learner motivated throughout the program, each week of training focused on a different aspect of the power clean. By successfully completing each week's program, the learner was kept motivated as they had learnt all exercises and therefore reached the week's goals. Positive feedback and encouragement about the learner's progress also proved to be a form of motivation.